Welcome back to Heroes of Humility. This is a quick brief on what you're about to hear. Heroes of Humility, aka HoH, is a show about social dynamics and ways that we can laugh at those dynamics, sometimes maybe even find some truth. And in this one, you're going to hear us discuss a little bit about how people affect each other in a positive way, things that we remember about people that made a difference in our lives. I guess if you try to avoid motion like I do, this might not be the episode for you. This one will tug at the heartstrings a little bit. And we also talk about what might be in store for the Heroes of Humility in the future. Eventually, we do plan to try to memorialize some of this in a video. I'm not sure that would be the best decision, but nonetheless, that's what we have on the horizon. And also we'll discuss a little bit about what cosplay is, and you'll hear that there are people that really have no idea, believe it or not. So hang on, drive safe, or whatever you're doing, and hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for being here.
Heroes of Humility, 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 humility.
This is not a charade. This is real. These words you are about to hear are coming from real humans on a mission to save the human race from itself. Buckle up while these delusional heroes of humility, aka HoH, attempt to right the wrongs in everyday human behavior. We're Frosty, funky fresh back with, you might have heard of them, kind of beige, kind of a bland color, but not at all like the individual beige, very colorful. And then we have 11 back, which is awesome because last time we were missing him from the recording. Thanks, guys, for being here. And thank you to our listeners that I think there's a few that have stuck with us.
Hi, Mom.
And I think we're going to try to do some video recording at some point, but we just haven't had the time to bring that to fruition. So maybe that's something to look forward to for the people that have stuck in with us. I don't know. That's something I look forward to where you can see us actually speaking. I think it adds another dynamic. And
I think I got a solution on the recording thing.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to buy a camera. I did find some and I'll buy them. And if you do come up with an idea, we'll use what I get. But I had some ideas too.
We should shoot it with like an 80s camcorder the soccer dad had back in the day, like the big, huge camcorder.
Yep. And then
who are we going to have do that?
That'd be good if we had somebody's help.
Yeah, if we had a videographer,
Is that a word? I mean, I'm sure I would doubt that your intellect, but I just don't know how to use it. So
I got a word of the day app on my phone, dude. So humble brag, but yeah.
I like the word obsequious. I learned that the other day, but it's kind of a funny word, and I've been trying to work that in. So
you're just going to drop it in the podcast somewhere
I'll see.
randomly.
Did you text that to us?
I don't know, maybe.
I think you texted to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm so distracted by just trying to work that in. I might be very quiet during the whole podcast until I can get that word in.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that's very servile in an overly pleasing way. There's just certain times when maybe you could use it. So this episode is going to be about how and we're also I was thinking about, there's some people that do cosplay. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. You had a funny remark as to what you thought it might be once when I tried to describe it, but it's people that try to look, it doesn't have to be canon. Oh, do you want to?
You don't know what cosplay is?
I didn't back then. I do now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was, I think, that during the infancy of the whole cosplay. I thought it was something to do with like people acting out scenes from like the Cosby Show or something.
Cosplay. It's people that let's just let that simmer for a second. I know. I was trying to invite him to say that again because I thought that was funny. And I really think there was a small part of him that sincerely thought that, so I just let that.
Yeah.
But
I'm not part of that whole scene.
Yeah, the cosplay scene.
Yeah,
it's a freaky scene, dude. You got to be down.
Well, that goes with the anime. Anime and cosplay scene, they're like in the same family, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like if you like anime, you generally like cosplay too, right? Am I correct?
I guess I don't want to overgeneralize and stereotype everybody, but how many
how many
just based on my experience.
How many cosplay costumes do you have?
I did, you know what? There's different ways to do cosplay. There's canon, which is where you try to look exactly like the representation or iteration of that character. Mine are kind of stuck to some movies I saw when I was a kid that I thought were epic. Batman and Christopher Reeve Superman. So I have those suits, which I collected and put in this room. And then I started feeling guilty about the money and the investment of time. So then I found a group that does this, and they do some good with it. They go to hospitals or they go to philanthropy groups. So I met people, and yeah, it's a big deal. But then there's the type of cosplay where you just...
I've actually had to zip up Pierce's Superman suit.
Let's not get into that.
That was a low point.
We went to... that was a high point.
Like
for
you're getting your wife
You
ready.
didn't take pictures of this?
Yeah, like you're helping your wife get ready for a date, you know? Like I had to zip up Pierce.
Could
I
you
don't know
zip up my dress?
who should be more embarrassed, the person that's getting zipped up or the person doing the zipping.
I think the person doing the zipping.
There's some people that that's
getting
why I'm
your girl
kind of
ready for
surprised.
the
That's
big
why I'm
date?
kind of surprised he brought it up, to be honest, because he was the zipper.
Well,
or he was the zipper. I
yeah,
was
you were the zippy. But I mean, that's
he's
what
a
you
good
do. You
bro,
gotta help
dude.
you gotta help a bro out.
I don't
you
know how many bros I would have also felt comfortable asking to do that, so I appreciate that, man. It was in the back, though. Let's
Yeah.
just make sure.
Wait
that's
a
clear to the
minute.
audience.
That doesn't make
Well,
it any better.
and
Believe me, it is better. It is better. Believe me, you
and the
weren't there.
suit, and the suit was already like 3/4. It was just the last few inches that had to be zipped up.
Right.
So it
yeah, I
wasn't
got
like,
it up all the way.
yeah.
In fact, I didn't even let him into the room until I had it up.
It wasn't like down
most
to the
of the
butt
way.
crack and then zipped
Yeah.
up. It was just like kind
right
of
at the crack of your ass.
all I'm hearing are excuses right now.
And that's all you're going to hear, because we're not going to give any more details than that. Don't even ask. But anyway, we didn't look each other in the eye.
I actually
For
thought
like the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, for a while.
I actually thought I blocked that out of my memory like a trauma victim.
You brought it up.
I actually
man.
thought, wow.
Look, can
I'm
we get
surprised
back
I
to what
remember that.
cosplay? Okay, so
This
cosplay.
is, we are. That's cosplay.
I guess this wasn't supposed to be cosplay, but the thing is there's people doing it for good intentions. Sometimes I think ego gets wrapped up into it, and because what happens is you get attention, and usually the attention is from people under 18. There are kids in hospital beds, and you see their reaction, and it's addicting because you help them escape their world for a while, and it's very cool, man. So it can become, you're like, wow, look what it feels good, and you think it would be easier than it is, but when you actually go to a hospital and you see a child going through something that no human, even the toughest person you can imagine, should have to go through, maybe they're missing a part of their face or something, and they're going through the oncology ward. It's harder when you leave. When it hits you all of a sudden, it's like, oh. But I had these two characters that made sense to me, and I met people, and I realized I know nothing about cosplay. In fact, I know nothing about comic books. And you go to like a Comic-Con because they have a booth. There's currently one occurring here in our area. People take this very serious. And if you don't know, and they'll come up to you and they'll say stuff. And if you do not know what happened in, comic 33 of Superman, and you're wearing a Superman suit, you look like a punk bitch. And some people will get a little bit fired up. And
Wow.
I was like, I wasn't ready for all this.
That's a little elitist, I think.
Well, what's funny is that I guess traditionally for years, these were maybe thought of as the underdog. There are people that they might have been called in a derogatory term a nerd. But now it's like a positive thing to be called, or it was for a while, I think, maybe still is. But so but it's funny, you do see kind of like the reverse. Now maybe the person that was bullied or whatever, I hate that word, but now they're the one bullying, because you don't know the character, you don't know what happened in that story.
Well,
It's
and
like,
that's
geez,
interesting.
Give me a
'cause
break.
It's like a human nature thing. It's like whatever we do, there's like this way that if we form a group,
Mm-hmm.
then we
In-out group.
have to form like a hierarchy within that group, So like with cosplay or whatever you're saying, you have like a band of people that maybe were alienated or something from the pop, and now they've formed their own little subgroup, but now they're creating their own hierarchy within the group. It's like, it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of bad that we just have that need to like exclude people or say, I'm on this level and you're on that level,
It's definitely a social behavior.
I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And I think it's also because it just gets too complicated, so you try to take shortcuts. It's cognitive laziness, and so by doing that, you have to have prejudgments. Sometimes you use stereotypes, which that sounds like a bad word, but we do it a lot, and we judge things in situations that we have to judge quickly. And then people do this in-out group thing. You're either in my group or you're on the out group, and it's a shortcut. How do I quickly make sense out of life? But unfortunately, by doing that, you start to exclude people, and whenever there is an out group and you can assign somebody to that, they have to be the anti whatever.
Well, and it's like if the group gets big enough, that means the out group then gets big enough, and then they split off and create their own group. It's just like it keeps
clicks, man.
It keeps like forming on itself. It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy that we got it. So I just thought, so this was all a little discussion because I thought it would be cool to have some of the people I've met that are much more versed in cosplay come in. And one of them asked if I would go to an event, and it's kind of an unsanctioned thing with my groups, because I guess sometimes you go through this group and they arrange the events. But this was a friend that I had met doing this stuff, really good guy, and he told me, hey, we're doing this thing at a children's museum. Can you come as this character? And so, I was like, yeah, but I thought it would be cool to have him, and I thought it would be cool to have a female come on and describe her perspective, because I've also seen the very difficult world for people that have a genuine desire of goodwill to just go dress like one of the characters they've seen. And what you've seen traditionally in comics and other things is that the women's heroic outfits are scantily clad. So that's
another thing I know about cosplay.
They deal with a different, well, we'll get this out of our systems, because I want to have we want to have somebody come on and say what that's like to have to, to go to a Comic-Con and deal with some of that, and also deal with.
But they have to dress up when they come in here.
Yeah, we'll have to really get this out of our systems, because we want it to be like it just.
What if we're going to do a cosplay thing to have them come in?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but I want to make somebody feel comfortable as a plan.
Beige will suit you up, man.
Yeah, Beige will zip up your back. I trust him.
You got to be suited up too.
Yeah, I trust. Yeah, I guess maybe I could be suited up. Maybe we could all get suited up. You guys have never cosplayed. Yeah, now the tables are turned. There's a lot of hemming and hawing.
I'll do it. Let's do a cosplay show.
I know Levin.
I got no shame, dude.
Yeah, he's good. But actually, I can't believe you're not already cosplaying.
I know. I'm going to do He-Man, where I just wear a little cloth.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. Well, maybe not. Yeah, let's rethink that.
No, just a little cloth and like a mullet wig.
That we'd have to get you a different chair. You can't sit in a chair like that. But so I thought we could have somebody come on and they could discuss that. But in other words, we're looking to video. We're looking to eventually have some guests. But this one we were going to discuss is things that have happened to us in life that have been either introduced some hope or some positive energy or change for the better from another person, where somebody's had like positive impact on our lives, and then we've kind of carried that forward. Sometimes I listen to our shows and we're really good at laughing at some of the idiotic behavior, but I thought, well, this one maybe we can talk about some of the things that people have done in our lives, and you're like, and how do we perpetuate that? Is there ever a moment where you yourself have inadvertently helped somebody or done it on purpose? I've looked back on the people that have made a difference in my life, and I wondered, they weren't maybe even consciously out to do that, but they did it. And how does that happen? How does that come to fruition? So I don't know. I thought that'd be cool to discuss, and we don't have Red. I should say, man, it stinks that we couldn't have Red because he couldn't come today. But so Red, we miss you out. I could start this real quick. I had one of the first things that comes to mind is I've had some coaches when I was playing baseball, football, they would go, you can tell somebody's doing more than they need to do when they are spending that much of their free time helping a bunch of kids. You see it with a lot of coaches, actually. I've seen this in extensions of my family where there's a guy who coaches, and I don't want to embarrass him by using his name, but it's going to happen if you care. And if you care, just not about winning, but there's some philosophical moment you're going to have with a kid, and he may not be getting that at home. He might not have that kind of support or whatever, and you are there.
With me, it's kind of hard. I think I'll be honest, like as a kid, I spent a lot of time by myself, just in the way that I was kind of raised. And I had two older siblings that they kind of gravitated towards each other, and I always felt like the odd person out. So I spent a lot of time by myself. So I think a lot of what has helped me, not so much other people. I mean, honestly, I'd love to think of other people that I could bring up. And I really, honestly, I mean, it sounds bad, but I really can't think of many besides my mom, who's been probably my main role model in my life. But other than that, I think what's helped me to kind of become the person I've become and try to have the values of being self-sufficient and doing all this and learning things and what have you is just I think it's valuable, and especially in society nowadays, we don't put enough emphasis on like getting to know yourself, because we always want to be stimulated by the internet or interacting with other people. And like, there's some people that are terrified to spend any time alone because they don't want to spend time with themselves, I guess. So with me, I just, even as a younger kid, I think I was very introspective. And a lot of that is just a lot of time spent by myself to kind of figure out what I want to do or what I want to learn or things like that. And it helps you become a much more determined person.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I'm afraid to say this because it might go to your head, but that's kind of the way Einstein operated, dude. His experiments
That's a good analogy.
I knew you were going to take this too far, but... And I liked it 11. I could hear him laugh. I'm trying to look into my mic. But it's just interesting because, you're kind of philosophical, man. You have some existential moments on the show, which people have heard. It might be mind-blowing. It comes
Were you
from
an only child?
No, but I had two older siblings, but I still spent a lot of time by myself.
I did. I was an only child until I was 18.
Yeah. So I was a latchkey kid, so like I would walk home from school every day, kind of spend a few hours by myself. I think kids in our generation, and especially kids like me in that situation, you had to be self-sufficient because you came home, you were by yourself, and you had homework to do. And so there was nobody there that was going to say, do your homework. You had to take it upon yourself to do that. There's a lot of responsibility. I think the way that we look at things in modern society is like, oh, well, this is bad, that's bad. This is, I need to be social, I need to interact. It's bad to be alone. It's bad yes, there's certain aspects of that. But if you take the time to be alone to try to grow and look within yourself, I think that's very beneficial. And I don't think in society nowadays we allow ourselves to have any time.
It's the same
to
thing
actually.
It's meditation. That's exactly
well, it's
what
meditation. It's reading. Because what do you do when you read? You're by yourself. You're reading. You're thinking. Mm-hmm. That's why reading is so beneficial. Is because that's an exercise by yourself where you're actually thinking and using your mind and stuff. Mm-hmm. And these are all things that I feel like in modern society they're going away. Even reading. Like how many people actually? A lot of people probably do still, but how many people actually open a book and read a book cover to cover as opposed to let me put on the audiobook?
Yeah.
There's a different aspect there when you're making your mind work. So I think that we can't just look at something and say, oh, you're by yourself, that's bad.
Yeah.
Make it good, you know?
Yeah. And that's why meditation is so good. When you're really calm, your brain works a lot stronger, a lot harder. You start seeing things differently and all that. So I'm a big believer. Having a quiet area for an hour,
Well, dude, I was listening to...
It's so beneficial to anyone.
I was listening to Aaron Rodgers. You know who that is, right? The quarterback.
Of course.
He does the thing, and he was describing this on on a podcast where he goes into like a darkness retreat, and it's like sensory deprivation, literally pitch black for like 3 days. You don't know what time it is, nothing, and it's just mentally that puts you in a space where like it almost becomes like a out of body experience, I guess, or something. So I think that's
3 days.
For 3, wow. Like he said, some people did it for like a month, straight. Wow. Just no light, complete darkness.
Yeah, no phones,
no phone, no nothing. Just like, and I think that,
man, you think about that, that'd be tough to even do for like a few hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, but I think that the objective of that is deep thought, deep introspection. If you are having turmoil in your life, a lot of times we get so sidetracked with everything else that you can't really sit there and address what's going on.
No, I agree.
For me, it would be deep trauma because, Beige, both you guys know me pretty well, and you've discussed this, how, he seems to have this ability to get up and not be embarrassed or get up in front of people. But the thing is that I think if you're extroverted, I think introversion and extroversion is like an axiom of personality or particular trait that's different for each individual. And so some of these things may work in small degrees, but probably across the board, they have different impacts for different people. Because if you're an extroverted person, you get a lot of your energy, your good vibes from being around others. And there's not too many moments of alone that I spend. So if I'm not getting some of those, I could be depriving myself of some of the benefits that you're talking about. I remember being able to entertain myself very well as a kid when I was by myself, but I went through that, and then as I became, more conditioned to being around others, I just remember, and I can remember the moment in my life where it just was like, I prefer to be around other people. I get my energy and I figure stuff out listening to them and talking to them and brainstorming together. But I can see what you're talking about.
Well, and that's not to say, even if you're like the person like I'm talking about and you need to introversion or introspection, that's not to say that if you do spend time alone, it doesn't get depressing sometimes and lonely. Sometimes it does. I mean, I think that's a natural reaction, but you can't, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, it's easy to wallow in that, as opposed to embracing that and turning that into an advantage to yourself. Because I think a lot of times in modern society, we have interactions with people that are very superficial. Like this is cool that we actually meet up and talk, because there's something to being able to talk to somebody, because the more that we become quote unquote social on the internet and social media, the more isolated people actually become in real life. And that's why you're seeing issues now with like dating and stuff with the younger generation, because they're not able to connect, because they're connecting on this
anything other than a superficial
level. And it's just
same
like
stuff that they say online.
Like
they don't know how to get any deeper than that.
Right. Like me personally, I take one interaction where I'm talking to people or hanging out with people, no use of phones or texting or whatever, and we're just actually together, as opposed to like 10 instances of hitting somebody up on Facebook. To me, that one instance is more valuable than those 10 instances combined.
Well, in person, you have the ability to actually care about somebody a little more deeply than that superficial. So, like, I feel like people are losing that ability.
Well, and how many times would you say something to somebody online that you would never say to them in person?
That's why things get so toxic.
And it's not. And it's not even necessarily.
I make it a point to not do. I wouldn't do that.
But it's not necessarily even like, oh, I'm intimidated by this person to say something. No, I'm actually connecting with this person on a human level. I don't even want to say that anymore, like I did when I'm just dealing with the anonymous type person. So I know I kind of got off on a tangent here, and the reason I did is that honestly, besides my mom and just providing the example that she provided to me as a child, as somebody who's very dedicated and works hard and all those good traits that I felt like were good lessons for a child to learn. Other than that, I think I really like to consider myself as being self-made. Like I haven't had anybody help me out in any tangible way. I don't feel like everything I've done, I feel like I've pretty much earned. I've never had a buddy looking at, hey, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that for you. It's like everything I've done, I haven't known anybody. I've just done.
You've never gained any sort of insight or inspiration from anyone? Went out of their way just a little, even like one conversation that sort of made that impact?
I mean, I'm sure there's things within like the work environment of people that you probably pattern yourself after, like you see other employees and you're like, yeah, I kind of want to be like that guy, either personality wise or work ethic wise or whatever. So yeah, I think in our day-to-day life, but there's nobody in my eyes like Pierce as like the coach or something. I'm sure you can probably in your mind think of a particular moment or a particular interaction with a coach.
I had a teacher in high school, my junior year. I had trouble with my grades just because I kind of had like a rough home thing. And I was by myself all the time, only child.
Yeah.
I'd get kitchen knives thrown at me and stuff, It was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And I just I would ace all the tests, but I just wouldn't do any of the work, like homework and stuff, because I was just kind of like a screw you to everyone. And it's like that angry kid.
Yeah, like rebellious.
Yeah. And when things got bad at home, I had to jump out the window, go sleep on the train tracks until 2 a.m. when I can come in and, everyone's asleep. And I was like, okay, good. Now I can actually like relax. But I had this teacher when I was a junior. We had to write this short story. I don't know if I know I've told you about this. Wrote this short story, ended up being really good. He was like, oh, this is good enough to be published in front of the whole class. So he let me sit in the back and read books and all that, and just do reports every week. But then he made me his teacher's aide. He taught me how to play chess. It kind of like showed me that
like how to be
I'm
more of a
way more than like this angry kid that's been dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
I can actually do something. And so I was a teacher's aide the next class, and it was like a free period. So we just would sit there and play chess. And he didn't do anything for me. He didn't like teach me anything other. He just kind of showed me.
Well, and chess is great because
and I was really good. And he taught me, and I was beating him. Like in a month, I'm like beating him like every time. And this is a dude that's played chess for 30 years, you know. And
I think chess is good because it makes you think on a deeper level, right? Yeah. Like you're thinking and multiple steps ahead, which is a proactive way of thinking about things.
Well, and at the time, he was having deep conversations with me. I just didn't even realize it. And I realized it later on, you know. Ended up joining the Army and all that, and I just had to get out of that area, you know, get away from everyone.
Was there anybody in your life that was in the Army or military that inspired you to join the military?
Yeah, there was. It was a neighbor of mine. He actually taught me how to work on cars and build motors and all that. And probably one of the toughest guys I ever met in my life. And, but he was a rocket scientist for Northrop, you know, like this dude was a genius, but you never know it talking to him. He's just like a hard nosed, like boxer.
Seemed like a blue collar guy, but
but he was a genius.
I want to back up on something that 11 was talking about, because I think that what's interesting to me is not just that we've had these people, but it's how does this happen? Because like I said, it's not that the guy probably set out. I mean, he's a teacher, so he's already kind of aware of the fact that he's going to be influencing future adults. There's like 8 stages of cognitive development. Once you go past that, you've really formed some of the foundation of who you are already. Having to make a choice about, I'm just going to stay out on the tracks tonight because things are way too ballistic at home. That you're having to be an adult and go through those stages a little quicker in my thoughts.
And he knew what he was doing. He was trying to inspire, unlock, whatever. But ultimately, it's up to the student or the person to kind of take the next step, right? Yeah. Like he knew what he was doing, because I would go back every year after I was in the Army, and I'd go back every year at least once, and I'd go into the classroom and he'd introduce me to his class and be like, this is one of his greatest success stories here. Like it was, you know, a proud moment for him. Cool. So I'd go in there just to, you know, and I'm still friends with him. Great dude.
That's awesome.
And but he knew what he was doing the whole time, and it was just like an inspiration, man. And then my neighbor guy, same thing. I was like terrified of the guy, like a little bit, you know. Even he was a lot shorter than me, but the dude was just one of those tough guys, man. I'm like, man, okay,
yeah.
And it kind of like got me going. And my grandfather was in World War II.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? It's not all about physically imposing; it's a mindset. It's a
I think everything in life is a mindset. It doesn't matter.
I think everything starts with how you deal with something that makes sense.
Yeah, if you have the right mindset going in any situation, you can be successful.
Right.
I think on this issue too of what is the impetus and how this happens. I have this concept that I know that if I use this Christopher Reeve suit to go to some place where people are really struggling with scary things, that if I do this, there's some good that can come out of it. But I think what might be longer lasting than just convincing this little boy or girl that they really are having kind of a real experience is that later on, people are going to think about, what do you take away from seeing that? Okay, these adults are realizing that some stranger was willing to come and be a part of their world and try to cheer somebody up for a little while. So it's kind of like, to talk about that, but I mean, about my situation. But in the experiences I've seen with people, and just thinking about your story with his teachers, that they kind of, later on you realize, gosh, somebody kind of took the time, you know, and that's kind of a cool byproduct of that, not just like the advice or the good statements, but somebody cared, you know.
Real quick, don't take away from the fact of what you're doing, dressing up like that, going to those hospitals. That bright spot in that kid's day might be that motivation. That might be them talking years down the road after they're cured, you know, and be like, you know, this dude dressed up as Superman came in, and you know, Jolie just you've seen the smiles on their faces. You've seen them light up. Like, well, and that could be that could be one of those moments that help them, you know?
Well, and I will say, like, I guess to piggyback or on what I was saying before, you look at things as an adult differently than you look at things as a child. So as an adult, you realize like the gravity of a situation or what the sacrifice somebody had to make to do a particular thing. And so like as an adult, I remember when I was in first grade, and like I said, I was a latchkey kid. I raised by a single mother who had to work and nobody at home, when I got out of school. And as a parent now, it's like, man, it's tough juggling all that stuff and making sure that, so my mom had to be creative. How am I going to balance all the childcare and everything? So I remember in first grade, my first grade teacher would stay after for like half an hour or 45 minutes, and it was just me and her, and I would play on the computer for 45 minutes until my older siblings got out of school and walk home with them. And that was first grade,
and that was
right?
her time.
And that was her time that she gave up to do that. And now as an adult, you're like, okay, teacher doesn't make hardly any money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is
you
her,
want to find them and thank them.
right?
Like,
This is her time that she willingly volunteered and gave up. She didn't have to do that, and she was just a nice, her name's Miss Edwards. Unfortunately, I'm sure she's passed now because she was very old back even when I was in first grade a long time ago. So, but I do think about that now. And as a kid, you appreciate it, but you don't realize the sacrifice that somebody's making to do that. And so as an adult, you look back on those things, that person was a very, just a great charitable person to do that stuff, and you really appreciate that through a different perspective later on. So.
Yeah, that's something you do have a harder time grasping as a kid, but it's harder to recognize. The person that comes to mind is absolutely my mom. I saw my mom. I was going off to college, and I had reached out to my dad. My parents divorced when I was like 8, and I thought, well, my dad was well-to-do, and I thought, well, I'll ask him for some help. I especially needed help with my books. Books are just outrageous, and I had applied for financial aid and stuff. And I had a friend, a buddy, who came and got me, and he's been there for me so many times to help me move. And he took me, if it hadn't been for him, I may not have even gone to college, to be honest, because he came and got me, and they had a place to live, and I helped pay the rent there when I got a job waiting. But my mom, I knew I may not see her. I was helping take care of my mom and sister, and my mom, I knew she had just gotten paid when she had just gotten all the groceries for the house, and it was tough, probably a lot like your situation where you have a single mom trying to take care of you and your siblings, and there's only so many resources to go around. So I saw her struggling a lot of times. She would do this thing where after she'd buy us groceries, she'd make us all sit in the car and say a prayer because she didn't know she was going to be able to get enough groceries that week. Well, I was going away to college, and she had bought me a notebook, and that's all I had to go to college. And she went into her wallet, and I knew after she had gotten the groceries and everything, she had nothing left. And she had converted what she had into $100 bill, and she said, you take this and, you go, do something. And I thought, man, I asked God, say, please just help me do good in college because I got to take care of my mom and sister. And I took my mom's, everything she had, and I said, Mom, I'm not going to take that. That's your money for the rest of the week. And she's like, you take it. And she had nothing, until she got paid. Actually, it was 2 weeks later. And I always thought, even parents, sometimes you think when you look out there in the world and you see kids and stuff and the way they behave, you wonder, that's a hard thing you can even imagine parents doing, giving somebody everything they have, which I saw my mom do for me in so many other ways, other than that one moment. But it just amazes me. So that's definitely, she's at the top of my list. So she hasn't listened to all of our shows. I'll tell her to listen to this one because she'll get a kick out of it. So, but yeah, dude, that's tugs at the heartstrings. Not to get all. This has been a kind of
a very special episode of.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how. We could probably.
Let's go back to making fun of Pierce.
Yeah, that's easier, right? Yeah. Oh, that's, by the way, my mom has a hard time because
Let's get back
she's
in
the zone. She's like, I don't like when those other boys make fun of you. Mom, we give everybody a hard time. And I was listening to one when I was editing.
You should have said, have you seen the rash of crap I give Beige every show?
I said, Mom.
This is true.
Yeah. I said, I make fun of their, that they're follically challenged, all kinds of things.
How handsome they are.
We're talking about the woman that gave me $100 when she had nothing for 2 weeks. So she doesn't even want a hair on my head getting harmed. You know, so she's pretty biased.
I was waiting for when he was going to talk about his hair, dude.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's at least wants
It's
a
very
show.
important to me, dude. It's very important to
So
me.
basically, she wants this to be a Pierce compliment.
Yeah.
fest
Yeah, you
for
heard
an
when she
hour.
called in. She's
Yeah.
like, "I want everybody to know that my does a wonderful job." So yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
Pierce is the best.
Well,
he's the best.
you're
He's
not
got the
gonna
best
convince-
hair around.
You're not going to convince my mom otherwise. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
crazy. But I think some of that's good for kids. I think some kid at some point in their life should feel like, you know what, I am special. Unfortunately, I'm the result of when you think that too much, and it just becomes so pervasive that your entire perception of reality is warped, and you make other people feel bad because of their less.
Well,
their
and I'll be
lesser
honest.
hair or whatever.
I mean, my mom's kind of the same way with me too. It's like, oh, I can do no wrong, and I'm like, I even have to tell my mom, like, sometimes, like, no, I'm screwed up.
Wow.
I'm not perfect.
A true
you
hero
know?
of humility.
Yeah, like,
man.
because
But
sometimes
you're perfect in my eyes.
Yeah, but sometimes
No, my mom doesn't say that. She's like, no, you are perfect.
You are.
Yeah.
I'll fight anybody
No,
who
that's-
says otherwise.
Yeah, that's not subjective. That's just the truth. You are
Right,
literally
exactly.
perfect.
Yeah.
Because I think that's part of growth. Me personally, it may be hard to hear sometimes or whatever, but you have to have people to tell you, like, nah, dude, you screwed up. Because if everybody's just telling you you're great, then it's like, well, cool. I don't have to fix anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's everybody else's problem.
One of the things my coach said that I remember is it was because people weren't making eye contact. So when he got up and talked, he said, I better see everybody making eye contact because that shows me that you respect me. I'm giving
Yes.
you the respect
I
of
couldn't
talking
agree
to
with
you.
that more.
And so he got on everybody and he says, and by the way, if you think that you're so indifferent to being here or you don't need to be here, then don't come back tomorrow because we're coming here every day because we can always get better. And when you stop thinking that you can get better, there's no point in coming to practice
Yeah.
because you're too good for practice. And there's nobody here that's sitting and listening to me right now, and I better see everybody's eyes that thinks they're too good to get better. And I was like, how do you argue with that?
So the overarching theme in that to me is humility and respect. Those are the two lessons from that speech. You know, keeping eye contact, that's something that you have to learn in life. In general, past football, everything in your place of employment, if you're giving a presentation, who wants to listen to a presentation when the person's just staring at the PowerPoint or staring down at the floor, you know?
Well,
You're supposed to make eye contact with a few people. Like, these are all just life lessons, you
Right.
know? And he probably knew...
That is a
Like,
life lesson.
this is a life lesson. This goes beyond football and practice. Like, humble yourself. Don't ever get too big for your jock strap or whatever. And
gonna
look
say
people
some
in the
stuff.
eye.
I was
Show them
gonna say
respect.
some stuff.
When I was teaching,
Stay
I
serious.
used to say the same thing whenever I'd be teaching schools or instructing classes and stuff. But I would know who's understanding and who isn't. Because if you're not looking, if you're not making eye contact,
It's disrespectful.
You're thinking about something else, which is disrespectful because I'm putting forth a lot of effort to teach a
Yeah,
class
I
of these
took time to
50
prepare this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
You guys are here
yeah.
to learn this. I took so much time preparing this class. I'm up here talking in front of 50 of you guys. It's not the easiest thing. Not a lot of people can do it. But it took me a lot to learn all this stuff. And I've been doing it for years. And
Right.
here I am trying to impart my wisdom onto you. And you're like daydreaming off somewhere. And
Well-
so, you know, those are the guys you always pick out. And you're like asking questions. They're like,
Well, and that's what's good in school too. Is even in I remember as a young kid, there'd be a presentation or assembly, and everybody wants to be chattering and stuff, and the teachers, hey, stop talking.
that drives
you know?
me nuts, too.
Like that is one of those things that's almost like on the same path as the eye contact, but just stop talking while somebody's speaking. That's respect. So that kind of this is how we're going to start to show respect to somebody here.
And
you
what's
know?
so interesting about that is that when you actually take the time to look at somebody, it forces you to listen to what they're saying, but it also, what you realize, and maybe later on when you become an adult, is you're getting something out of that. You're actually growing and learning more. You're getting you're actually going to hear what 11's getting up and saying because you're paying attention, you know? But
that happened to me the other day. You're talking about people talking during like an assembly or whatever. I was at this go-kart place, which we're all going to go to. we're gonna have a HoH day.
We'll put some video.
Let's do it.
It's an indoor place. It's
Let's
amazing,
drift.
dude. It's
Let's
amazing.
drift.
It just opened a couple months ago. You guys are gonna be blown away by it. But you go into this room and they talk to you, give you like a safety brief, and they're like, "Okay, please be quiet." I'll turn around and look, and there are these two girls that just won't stop. and they're like going to finish their conversation, and it like that stuff just gets to me, man.
Yeah.
I like want to turn around and just be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that gets me a little bit about that is because when the guys that I was sitting with in the bleachers listening to the coach weren't paying attention, those are the guys that maybe they would fall short of doing their job,
which affects the whole team.
which hurts everybody.
Yes.
And when you have two people that show up for a safety briefing on a go-kart thing where those things move, I actually jacked my back up a little bit once, and it was because this person came around the corner right next to me, and they basically speared me right from the back, and then I spun out. So little things like just not being safe, well, somebody's going to get hurt or whatever, so it pisses me off when you...
Well, and then if somebody gets mad at somebody, those two girls, for instance, right? They're not paying attention. Then they go and they ride the go-karts and they commit a safety violation. Yeah. And then somebody gets mad at them for doing that, and then their response is like, "Oh, what a dick," And it's like, no, you should have listened.
Yeah, you caused
this. Like he's
You're
not a
the
dick.
problem.
It's you are the problem. Onto the go-kart thing, I want to piggyback on that. I think it'd be cool. I'm going to put this out there.
I know Red will love it.
Well, if we do like things like go-kart and then like...
Dude, would Red fit in one?
And then like...
yeah.
And then like... Yeah. He'd be like Mario Kart with Donkey Kong,
Yeah,
his knees are going to be up next to it. Your knees are probably up next to your ears in those things, dude.
No, they actually move back. The seat moves. But there's plenty of room.
But we should do things like go-karts, paintball, golf, and like keep a score here.
Man.
Keep a score like 11 go-kart.
We
1
can
point.
take a picture of it because whoever does the fastest lap, and they have the standings at
But
the end.
each of our events, we have to like tally and say, 11-1 go-karts.
Oh, dude, we'll do a whiteboard in here.
We'll
put
beige
a-
one golf, and we'll just keep a tally going and see who's the best here. We got to keep it competitive, right?
So many feelings brewing.
Oh,
so many emotions.
I can't wait for golf. Watch Pierce try to.
Well, we can do regular golf and putt-putt.
There you go.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And then
Or we could go to Top Golf and see who can get the highest amount
there
of points.
There you go. That too. But this is gonna be a competitive thing. I'm like that's how I am. That's probably how you guys are. We got to compete here. So
I compete in everything.
Yeah.
Oh, they have because there's 4 of us, and they have VR stuff there. And you compete in that too. And there's usually 4 people at the same time. It's unreal.
There you go.
Like we went and did like the floor moves. And the VR thing, you go past fire and they're like blowing heat on you, and it feels like
that's at the go-kart place.
Yeah.
Wow, this place sounds amazing.
It's amazing, dude.
Wow,
dude, we're gonna have to.
11 always knows the good stuff.
I know.
We're gonna have to kick this. Yeah, we're gonna have to kick this off. Let's start competing.
I thought about you guys because I was like, man, I wish I could take all these guys with me to my high school reunion, just because. There's a lot of my other friends that'd be cool to meet, but sometimes you have friends that I can go do that with them because that's where we're going. I mean, of course it's the reunion, but God, man, I wish I could take 11 and beige and red and all that. This sounds good, dude. I think we need to follow through on this and make it happen. Oh, you got some video there.
Look, it's indoor.
Showing wow, lights. That's cool, man. Wow, it looks like different levels. You go up and down a little bit.
It's 2-story.
Wow.
It's like Rainbow Road from Mario Kart, dude. Rainbow Road.
Damn. They make you
and
wear helmets.
They're electric.
And stuff.
Oh, yeah, you got to wear helmets and everything.
Yeah. Does it mess up your hair?
Oh, my God.
Let's do it.
Yeah, mine got really messed up. You're going to be thinking about your hair the entire time.
I could wear a baklava before I go there.
Dude, have you ever done the...
Wow, look at that. That looks like...
it's massive.
Wow.
This is the one I'm talking about with the heat and all that.
Oh, okay.
So you're like almost like on a turret. You know?
Wow.
It is so cool.
That's cool.
How did I not know about this?
It just opened.
That's pretty cool.
Months ago.
They also have that company that lets you drive supercars around a track.
Yes.
For time.
Oh my God. Let's do that.
That would be awesome too, man.
Yeah. We would all have to do the same car though.
The last time,
just to get who's the best, who gets.
The last time I went through some driver training, I did a 360, man, because you're pushing it so hard. You're trying to keep that curve going. You're trying to go around the curve as fast as you can, and I lost a little bit of the apex, but I definitely was going faster than I should have.
Well, I will tell you because I've done the supercar thing before, and
you got one up.
But they tell you
I've raced a lot.
But they tell you in advance if you damage the car, you're basically liable for that.
Yeah, that's
so when you're driving like a $500,000, $600,000 car,
but I'm gonna beat you guys.
Kind of want to keep it on the track, you know. So it does make you take your foot off the pedal a little bit.
Yeah,
just knowing that.
When I was going through some of this driver training, not to get into it too much because we've all done that, and they sit you with somebody who's in the car, and they're going to be driving next. So you don't just go ballistic because, of course, he's now going to be the one in charge after you're done. Well, I did this thing, and we probably all put cars in a spin like that, but my car went around a couple times, and there was a point where I was like, I hope one of these two wheels doesn't catch too much traction because I felt like we were going to flip. So I looked, but there was a moment where I was appreciating it so much, I just looked over at the guy because I wanted to see what it was like for him. And he was just like looking at me like, just like, and it was like, anyway, it was.
So Pierce is justifying right now why he's going to be driving
Miss Daisy,
driving Miss Daisy while we do this here.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm just saying.
I used to practice drifting when I was a kid. I can do it in my Camaro. I'd kill it.
Oh, nice.
I think Red will probably. He's going to be up there.
Yeah, Red's got a lead foot.
Like
I think he's got a,
he drives with reckless abandon with his Cadillac.
Well, dude, his daily driver is what, 750 horsepower or something. So it's.
Most of my, when my dad and I would go to the fair, we'd get into the bumper cars, and my dad was the only one that would prize himself on trying not to hit anybody. So we would be sitting there, and you think, "Oh, that's not fun." It is. It is fun, dude. Because my
people
dad
are gunning for you.
Yeah, everybody, and so guys would get more frustrated with my dad because they couldn't hit him, and it was fun to see him outmaneuver people. And I've gotten, I don't know, I kind of started that early on, and then. When I got my Trans Am, it does feel like sometimes when I'm on the road, I'm just like...
You try not to hit people?
I'm trying to really make sure I've got plenty of room in every sector wherever I go, and just totally defensive.
And the guy bumper locks you, and you're like, you son of a...
Yeah. Dude, yeah, that doesn't...
I'm sorry. I knew that would provoke
Don't even
Pierce.
Say that, man. That's... oof. Well, dudes, I think that's a good one. Thank you for being here. Thanks for our listeners for tuning in to what was probably a little emotional at times, maybe almost too many emotions. I try to avoid emotions. But like Beige was saying, maybe that's good. Maybe you should do some introspection and always being around others, being entertained. I think maybe being entertained is always
it's a balance. You don't want to be alone all the time, obviously, but it's not necessarily like an awful thing if you're alone.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for the emotions. And this is Pierce signing off for Heroes of Humility. We will be back with another episode in 2 weeks. Adios.
Adios.
Bye.